So, tell me again why we're doing this?
It was Nightmare Night, and the sun was just beginning to set. Soon Ponyville would be covered in darkness, and hardly any pony would be recognizable, all dressed in costumes of everything imaginable, to disguise themselves from a nightmare moon if you went by the traditional story. Not many ponies had believed that old legend until the last Summer Sun celebration, wherein it turned out there really was a nightmare moon after all.
I'm going as a mummy! I thought it would make a cool Nightmare Night costume. It's how Egyptians buried their dead. They were an ancient nation of...
Humans?
You've heard of them?
Lucky guess.
It's fascinating, really. According to what I've read, they have special chemicals and stuff that they apply to the dead body. But first they take these special hooks and go into the body's nose and...
I don't understand where any pony would come up with something like that.
She finished up the last of it, covering up Lyra's horn up to the very tip. Nothing but her eyes were exposed. Bonbon stepped away to examine her.
Though, at least this costume isn't too human-looking, I suppose.
I did have a few other costume ideas lined up, but with the time we had left, this was the only thing that worked. I never did get those gloves made.
You know, I'm not even gonna ask what that means. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to take a rest. These past few weeks have been exhausting, and you certainly haven't been much help.
With Bonbon's new job at Sugar Cube Corner came a heavy workload at this time of year. Not only was she making candy at the store, but their own kitchen had been commandeered to cover all of the orders. The house had been filled with overpowering, tantalizing smell of chocolate for weeks.
Have I ever mentioned to you that you're the absolute best roommate to have this time of year? You better have made some extra for me.
As Lyra headed out the door, Bonbon felt like she could collapse at any minute. As glad as she was to have her new job, it really took a lot out of her. At least there hadn't been any more incidents with hands. Never mind the ghosts and goblins. That had been a scarier experience than anything Nightmare Night could offer. The town square had been completely transformed by the time the sun was down. A stage had set up where a band was performing. Strings of lights stretched between clusters of tents, with paper cutouts of ghosts and stars hanging down. Applejack, wearing some old burlap sacks that she'd fashioned into a scarecrow outfit, was in charge of games again this year. Bobbing for apples, launching pumpkins, the works. A bit of a shame to see all those perfectly fine pumpkins getting splattered all over the targets. But what in the hay? It was fun.
Hey, Applejack! How's it going?
Just dandy. Who's in there anyhow?
It's Lyra.
Nice costume. No, wait, don't tell me. You're a hospital patient who fell down a flight of stairs?
Actually, I'm a mummy.
Ain't no pony's mother ever looked like that. Just another of Lyra's quirks. Well, feel free to stick around a while and enjoy yourself.
Oh, I will be. That's weird. I don't see any kids around here.
Pinkie Pie and Sakura took them all into the forest to the Nightmare Moon statue. They'll be back in a jiffy.
Then it's all unguarded.
She made the rounds in the town square, hitting up any place that looked to have the best candy, and a lot of it. With no swarms of kids to get in the way, it was smooth sailing. She continued for a few minutes, happily oblivious to anything except the pursuit of treats, until she was interrupted by a sudden lightning flash and the sounds of ponies screaming. She dropped to the ground instinctively.
Citizens of Ponyville, we have graced your tiny village with our presence so that you might behold the real princess of the night!
Lyra glanced up. The booming voice was coming from a tall, navy blue unicorn with flowing hair. Princess Luna? She'd changed in the past year, that was for sure.
A creature of nightmare is no longer, but instead a pony who desires your love and admiration. Together we shall change this dreadful celebration into a bright and glorious feast!
Lyra stared up at her. This was the first autumn since Nightmare Moon had been defeated. It made sense that Princess Luna would want to attend their celebration in honor of her, even if the entire tradition was based on fear.
Did you hear that, every pony? Nightmare Moon says she's gonna feast on us! Ah!
A few of the ponies had jumped up, screamed, and run off with her. The rest were cowering on the ground. Lyra stayed down with the others. No, they wouldn't actually be afraid of the princess. Maybe they were bowing? It was normal to show this kind of respect to Celestia, but this was a little too ridiculous. Luna was speaking to the mayor now, who was just as speechless as every pony else.
What is the matter with you? Very well then. Be that way. We won't even bother with the traditional royal farewell.
Lyra glanced around once they were gone and was one of the first to stand up.
Well, that was awkward.
No time for distractions, though. This was the biggest night for Candy of the entire year, and she had hardly even begun. She headed back over to the tubs of apples after everything had settled down again. Applejack was still there, standing at the ready in case any pony was willing to step up and play a game.
Everything's fine now. We can just go on with our regular old nightmare night. First nightmare night we've ever actually had Nightmare Moon herself show up. Yes, I could have expected this.
She's just Princess Luna, though, isn't she?
Lyra? Gosh, I didn't even see you. Don't scare me like that.
You and the others defeated Nightmare Moon. It's just Princess Luna.
Back then, all of us just thought Nightmare Moon was an old legend. I just don't know what I'm supposed to think now. Makes you wonder what other old stories might start coming true, don't it?
You know, you've got a point.
Now, when's some pony gonna get the party started up again? Just look at all these apples we got left.
She pointed to one of the tubs of water with apples flowing on the surface. Lyra had always wondered about that game. Pegasi and Earth ponies had always picked things up in their mouth, and even unicorns would do that occasionally. What was the point of making a game out of it?
You wouldn't happen to know which way Luna went, would you?
Huh? I think she was headed to the forest, but why would you want to know that?
She's one of the oldest ponies alive. It's been 1,000 years since she was even in Equestria. Who knows what kind of things she'd know about?
I guess you got a point there. What do you want to talk to her about, though?
Nightmare Night might be older than you think, you know? I read about this old harvest festival really similar to what we have here. It wasn't exactly a pony holiday, though.
So you're asking her about...
Applejack's question was cut short when Lyra suddenly took off. Applejack watched the white shape running through past all the tents and vanish into the everfree forest.
I just don't get that pony.
The forest glade, where the statue of Nightmare Moon watched over the silent trees, was deserted. A pile of candy had been left in front of it, but whoever had put it there was long gone by now. Lyra picked up a piece of chocolate, unwrapped it, and ate it. Nobody would notice a missing piece. Or 12. Still, there was the issue of where Princess Luna, the real Nightmare Moon, had gone. Lyra thought she had heard someone in this part of the forest, but whoever it was, they'd been gone by the time she had arrived. This part of the everfree forest was quiet. Nothing but the rustle of the wind through the trees. And it was already starting to get chilly, too. Somewhere in the distance, there was the sound of shouting. Lyra couldn't make out the words. That kind of volume, though. There was only one pony it could be. After that display in the town square, there wasn't a doubt. She took off into the woods, heading towards the voice. This was the path out of the forest. If Lyra was right, then it led to Fluttershy's cottage. That was odd. Fluttershy never celebrated Nightmare Night. She was too scared of the dark. Everybody usually let her wait it out alone. The trees thinned out as she reached the edge of the woods, and she was almost to the cottage when she was nearly run over by a stampede of tiny colts and fillies led by a giant chicken.
Lyra, you have to run! Nightmare Moon's going to eat Fluttershy!
Pinkie, you're being ridiculous. It's Princess Luna. She's not gonna eat anyone. And I really need to find her and ask her something. It's important.
Silly Lyra, I know she's not going to eat us. Just play along, okay? It's fun!
Well, you go ahead. But this could really be my chance to learn something about humans. So, I'm gonna go find her.
Humans? Oh my gosh, my grandma told me about those! They're even worse! Humans are these awful creatures who eat meat, cows and pigs, and chickens, and maybe even ponies!
The entire crowd of young ponies screamed, and they dashed off towards the lights of Ponyville. Lyra stood there alone, frowning.
This is exactly the problem!
There was so little information on humans that ponies, those few who had heard of humans anyway, would make up anything about them. Even ridiculous things like humans eating other animals. Lyra had looked at enough drawings to know that humans just weren't built to be carnivores. They had no claws or fangs or anything like that. With stories like that going around, it was no wonder her mother had been so panicked back when Lyra had brought those books home from the library. Her dad had tried to reassure her that there was no real harm in their daughter reading about humans, but her mother had always vehemently discouraged it. She'd probably heard the same lies Pinkie believed in. Lyra plodded over to Fluttershy's cottage. The windows were dark, but she'd lived in Ponyville long enough to know that Fluttershy was still home. Not even free candy could lure that pony out of her house on Nightmare Night. Lyra stepped up to the door and knocked a few times.
Please, no more visitors. Just go away.
Fluttershy, was Princess Luna here? Where'd she go?
There. She went back into town with Twilight. Please, leave me alone.
They're back in Ponyville? Thanks!
There was another squeak in response, but Lyra was already running off to Ponyville. She wasn't going to be late this time. Her sugar rush must have worn off. Lyra's pace was slowing down and she had to stop to catch her breath. She looked down at a strip of gauze that was coming unwound from all the running, and her horn glowed as she tied it back around her leg. It was going to be impossible to keep up this pace. She had to slow down, but it was getting late. And if Princess Luna decided to head back to Canterlot, who knew when Lyra would get another chance to talk to somebody who was over 1,000 years old? She passed by Big Macintosh, pulling a wagon back towards Sweet Apple Acres. He was wearing a particularly impressive costume, complete with a top hat. Lyra stared at the image on his cape. She hadn't noticed it before. It was a skull, stylized to look like an apple, but she couldn't help but think it looked somewhat like a human. She shook her head. No time to focus on the small things.
Where is Luna?
It was a little odd, since even with as late as it was, there didn't seem to be as much noise coming from Ponyville. The lights still seemed to be on, but a lot of things were weird tonight. Lyra happened to glance up and notice a figure standing out on the bridge on the outskirts of town. She did a double take, almost certain that she was mistaken, but it was actually her. Princess Luna was standing all alone, staring out at the sky. Taking a deep breath, Lyra prepared herself. She just needed a moment. She had to get right to the point. She might not even get an answer, but if Luna didn't know about humans, who would?
Princess?
We have no interest in thy foolish celebrations.
Yeah. It's not about that. I actually wanted to ask you something. Since you've been around for so long, I figured you would know.
Thou wishest to speak with us. Thou art not afraid. Certainly, we would be most happy to grant thee an audience.
Well, what do you know about humans?
Speak not of the foul beings.
What's wrong with them?
Tell me, how did thou knowest of such things?
Just a few books, nothing much, but please, if they're real, you have to tell me about...
Away with you! No more talk of the beasts! Our kingdom shall remain peaceful without their influence!
In spite of everything, Lyra was grinning, actually smiling just to know that humans were more than just legends, and she had heard this directly from one of Equestria's princesses, no less.
Thank you so much!
Now be gone!
Lyra did just that. She was running straight home and hardly even noticed when she passed by Twilight Sparkle on the way there. This was the development she'd been waiting for.
Bon, wake up!
As Bonbon opened her eyes, she gave a start at the huge gold eyes staring right into hers. She didn't remember falling asleep on the couch, but the past few hectic days of finishing all these candy orders were a haze in her memory.
Lyra. Let me go back to sleep.
No, this is too important. You kept telling me that humans didn't exist, just like everyone else has always said.
I'm really not in the mood for this.
Princess Luna said they're real.
The princess? When did you meet her?
She came to Ponyville for Nightmare Night. Long story. Anyways, she knows about humans.
Princess Luna was here? Why would you ask her about humans?
Luna's thousands of years old. If anyone knew about humans, I knew it would be her, and I was right. Except she wouldn't tell me much. To be honest, she seemed kind of mad.
So wait, let me get this straight. You dragged Princess Luna into your insane theories, and you got her mad at you.
You know, I definitely think she was mad. But they're not insane theories. Luna said that humans existed a long time ago in Equestria.
Princess Luna, she actually comes to Ponyville for a visit. Royalty in Ponyville, and all you care about are these humans, and exactly how angry did you make her? In that costume, at least she wouldn't be able to identify you, but do I need to worry about the royal guards coming to our door?
You're ignoring the most important part of this. Humans are real! Or were, and there's something the government doesn't want us to know about them.
No, don't pull the government into this. I'd rather not have either of us get arrested.
I need to write down exactly what Luna said before I forget. There could be some clues. This is a huge development!
Bonbon collapsed on the sofa again. No. There would have to be limits on how far Lyra would actually go with this. For tonight, there was no way Bonbon was going to argue with her, so she'd leave that for later. Within minutes she was asleep again and snoring,